Welcome to my channel, HF Coins World. Imagine reaching into a small jar of old pennies that has been sitting on a shelf for decades. Most of the coins look ordinary, and you almost lose interest after the first handful. Then one familiar design catches your eye. The classic Lincoln wheat penny. You turn it over and notice the date, 1956. At first glance, it seems like just another 1-cent coin. But here's the fascinating part. While millions were made, certain examples have become surprisingly desirable to collectors. And a few specific varieties have turned an everyday penny into a conversation piece. The real question isn't whether every 1956 penny is valuable. It's knowing what separates an ordinary coin from one collectors actively search for. Stay with me, because one tiny detail could completely change how you look at this coin. The story begins in the mid-1950s, when America was experiencing rapid growth. After World War II, new neighborhoods were appearing across the country. Highways stretched farther every year, and millions of people handled pennies without giving them a second thought. During this period, the United States Mint continued producing the Lincoln wheat penny, a design that had already become a familiar part of daily American life. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin features Abraham Lincoln on the front and 2 wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent on the back. That simple design represented nearly half a century of American history by the time the 1956 penny entered circulation. What makes the 1956 issue interesting isn't that it's automatically rare. In fact, hundreds of millions were struck. Philadelphia produced coins without a mint mark, while Denver struck even more, carrying the small D mint mark beneath the date. Because production numbers were high, most circulated examples remain common today and are generally worth only a small premium over face value. But coin collecting has never been only about mintage. Condition, preservation, eye appeal, and unusual varieties can make an enormous difference. Now imagine 2 identical-looking 1956 pennies sitting side by side. One spent decades bouncing around in cash registers and pockets. The other was placed in a coin folder shortly after it left the mint. Both began life exactly the same. Yet decades later, they may be valued very differently. That's one of the most fascinating lessons in coin collecting. Time treats every coin differently, and collectors reward those that survive with sharp details. Here's where many experienced collectors slow down and examine a 1956 penny more carefully. They aren't just looking at the date. They're studying Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the wheat ears, the surfaces, and even the color. Copper changes over time. A bright red coin that has remained close to its original mint color is often more desirable than one that has darkened through years of circulation. Collectors commonly describe copper cents as red, red-brown, or brown, and those color designations can influence value significantly when the coin is otherwise in similar condition. There's another reason the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny attracts attention. Some collectors search specifically for the 1956D repunched mint mark, often abbreviated as RPM. During the era when mint marks were punched into working dies by hand, slight misalignment sometimes created visible doubling or extra impressions on the mint mark. These varieties aren't found on every coin, but they represent a fascinating piece of minting history and remain popular among variety collectors today. Finding one requires patience, magnification, and a careful eye. Imagine discovering an old penny collection inherited from a grandparent. You spread dozens of wheat pennies across the table, each carrying memories of another generation. Most people immediately search for famous key dates, but experienced collectors often continue looking long after those have been checked. Why? Because interesting varieties, exceptional condition, and overlooked details sometimes appear where few people expect them. That quiet process of discovery is one reason coin collecting continues to attract enthusiasts of every age. Another detail worth understanding is strike quality. Even though millions of coins were produced, not every coin was struck with exactly the same sharpness. Some display crisp lettering, bold wheat lines, and well-defined details in Lincoln's hair. Others show softer features due to worn dies or production differences. Collectors who specialize in high-grade Lincoln cents often compare these subtle characteristics very carefully. If you're checking a 1956 wheat penny at home, avoid cleaning it even if it looks dull or dark. This surprises many beginners, because cleaning seems like it would improve the appearance. In reality, cleaning usually leaves fine scratches or alters the original surface, which many collectors view as damage. A naturally aged coin often remains more desirable than one that has been polished. One lesser-known fact about Wheat pennies is how many survived simply because people liked the design. When the Lincoln Memorial Reverse replaced the wheat reverse beginning in 1959, countless Americans started saving older wheat cents as keepsakes. That decision preserved many coins that otherwise would have continued circulating. It's a reminder that collector behavior itself can shape the future availability of coins. So what is a realistic value for a 1956 Lincoln wheat penny? The answer depends entirely on the specific coin. A well-worn circulated example is generally worth only a modest amount above 1 cent. Attractive uncirculated pieces can bring much stronger prices, especially those with original red color. Certified gem quality examples may sell for considerably more because they are much harder to find. Verified varieties, such as recognized repunched mint marks, can also command additional interest. Rather than assuming every coin is valuable, collectors evaluate each piece individually based on condition, authenticity, color, and any recognized varieties. This careful approach explains why two coins with the same date can sell for dramatically different amounts. The date starts the conversation, but preservation tells the rest of the story. That's why professional grading services exist to provide an independent opinion about authenticity and condition for coins that appear especially promising. Perhaps the greatest appeal of the 1956 wheat penny isn't its price, it's the connection it creates across generations. This small copper coin may have been used to buy a newspaper, a piece of candy, or a cup of coffee long before many of us were born. It quietly witnessed everyday American life before eventually finding its way into a collection, a coin album, or a forgotten jar waiting to be rediscovered decades later. The next time you come across a handful of old pennies, don't rush through them. Take a closer look at the dates, mint marks, surfaces, and overall condition. Even if you don't uncover a rare variety, you'll gain a deeper appreciation for the history carried by these small pieces of American currency. Sometimes the greatest reward isn't finding an expensive coin, it's understanding the remarkable journey hidden inside, something most people overlook. If you enjoyed exploring the story behind the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny, subscribe to HF Coins World for more documentary-style coin history, collecting tips, and fascinating discoveries from American numismatics. And before you spend your next handful of change, take a careful look. You never know what piece of history might already be waiting in your pocket. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.